More than 700 people were arrested across France after violent riots broke out when Paris Saint-Germain won the Champions League after beating Arsenal in Budapest. There were similar scenes in France last year when PSG won the same competition. In fact, 2 people died in that unrest. So what's behind the violence? Emma Smith is a journalist with BBC Sport and joins me now. Emma, good to have you back on the show. So firstly, do we know what led to the chaos in Paris and other cities, given that, PSG had won the league?
Yeah, as you say, PSG won the game on penalties. So a surprise, a late win. After that, fans flocked into the centre of Paris, into the Champs-Élysées and other French cities. And as you say, the celebrations in some cases turned into unrest. I think that there was definitely a certain anticipation of the trouble from the side of the police. This is the second successive year in which PSG have won the Champions League, and the second successive year in which there's been violence afterwards. Last year, 2 people died and 200 were injured after PSG beat Inter Milan in the final. But obviously, there certainly seems to be a problem, particularly in Paris and in France more generally, of violence following big football matches.
Yes, so as you mentioned, this happened last year when PSG had also won the Champions League. Is this being regarded as hooliganism, or is there more at play here? The question is, what are the undertones behind the violence?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be less to do with the fans themselves. The game in Istanbul passed largely without incident in the stands, but obviously there were issues in Paris afterwards. It certainly seems to be that there is an issue in which people use this opportunity of the people on the streets to celebrate the match to cause unrest. There were instances such as flares being set off, fires, property damage. There were images of electric scooters set on fire, and also the police in France do seem to have quite heavy-handed responses when it comes to football-related violence. They responded in this case with tear gas. The French police do have a record of this. When Liverpool fans attended the final in Paris against Real Madrid in 2022, there were reports and pretty shocking images of fans being tear gassed, of being beaten, and it resulted in the match being delayed and a fallout with the French police blaming the Liverpool fans, Liverpool blaming the French police. So this is an ongoing issue.
Yeah, I do wonder whether clubs themselves, in this case PSG, could be sort of held to account. Partly, of course, there have been hundreds of arrests, but could UEFA then look at this a little bit further and deeper and impose sanctions on clubs, because it has happened before on previous occasions.
It has. The problem is that obviously it's hard to link it to PSG themselves, because as I say, there weren't any major instances within the game itself in the stands in Istanbul, so it's harder to link any of these issues to PSG specifically. What it could have are ongoing repercussions for football in France, because obviously, many major European matches are held in France. Like I say, the Champions League final 4 years ago was in Paris. France held the European Championships in 2016. But UEFA will look at these instances and the fact that they have happened now 2 years in a row, and I think it could lead to them certainly reconsidering whether or not Paris and France more generally can be trusted to host, major events in the future.
Yes, and I wonder, would these incidents serve as warning signs, not just for France coming into this month, but also the host countries of the World Cup in North America, because France is one of the favourites?
Absolutely. And I think that we could well see heavier policing around France matches as a result of this. Obviously, the USA is well known for having strong border security, and I expect that there will be plenty of checks, and certainly that I expect there will be some fans who will be banned from travelling to the US. But certainly, the US officials will look at this and will think, should there be greater policing around European teams, around French teams, and certainly we could see that being the case in the World Cup this summer.
Yes, of course, Arsenal didn't win that Champions League game, but they did win their first Premier League title in more than 2 decades. So they had a parade to celebrate that in London. So what was the crowd behaviour like in London for that?
It seemed to pass pretty well without too many incidents. The fact that there has also been a heat wave in the UK recently,
Yes.
perhaps made that people were a bit too tired for any unrest. And certainly it was something of a strange occasion. Obviously celebrating their first Premier League title in 22 years, but obviously having failed in such close circumstances to win the Champions League. But it passed largely without incident, and I think it shows that the clashes that we saw in Paris are, more widely for football fans, the exception rather than the norm. But it is becoming a worrying trend in Paris.
Yeah, quite the contrast. Emma Smith in Manchester, thank you very much.
Thank you.